Welcome back, Commanders, and today we have got the highly anticipated the Tank Officer tier list. It was the most highly requested in the comments of the previous video. If you haven't checked that out, that was for Artillery tier list. The link will be in the description, or there should be a little card at the top of the screen somewhere. So let's dive into the actual Tank Officers now, and there's a lot of them. There's so many Tank Officers, and even versatile officers that you would use on tank units. I will include some, but basically I won't. I'll kind of give you an idea of where they should go if you was to use them. We will have a following tier list for versatiles to come in the future. So with that being said, guys, we're going to start off nice and strong with probably the first ever Tank Officer you get. And here we have Mr. Spanner. Now, early game, he is clearly an A tier because, you know, he's one of the first you get. He heals your troops. He's very good. Mid-game, he starts to move down to a B and eventually a C tier. But we're going to keep him at B in the middle because, to be fair, you know, he's one of those officers you're not really going to use unless you don't have other officers. So, you know what? I think we're actually going to put him in C tier. Now, we're talking about end game tier list here, okay? Like, when I say end game, I mean right now, if you've had your account, you know, 1, 2, 3 years, he's going to be in the C tier. You're not going to be using it after that time limit because there are so many better officers, okay? Moving on, we have Guardian of Truth. So when the game first comes out, guys, and you first download it and you have the option to get this guy, if you spend big bucks, he's S tier. He is absolutely insane at the start of the game, okay? After about 6 months, he'll move down to about an A tier. After about a year, honestly, he's going to become B tier. You know, actually, you know what? We're going to keep him at A tier. He's not terrible. He definitely doesn't deserve B tier, I don't think. He's definitely A tier. He's got some good skills on him. Personally, though, I just don't see him being, you know, that effective. He's one of those officers right now, if you're running, say, like, a lot of tank units, he's going to be one of the last choices for me if, you know, even if I had him awoken. I don't have him awoken personally. I didn't spend the money on him. But, as I said, early game, he's amazing. Mid-game, he's still pretty decent. But towards this late stage, I don't think he's that great anymore. So, guys, Whipcracker is actually a pretty decent officer right now. And if paired with some other tank units, I think she could perform really, really well. Now, of course, with that being said, we are, in fact, going to have to do some testing for her. I've not got her myself. I know a couple of other people who have said that there is a possible good chance she's going to be good with on an MB, for example, with, say, Phoenix or, you know, Rapier. I haven't been able to test it. I haven't seen any testing. So for now, I'm going to keep her at A tier because I know just if you break down the skills she has got some very phenomenal skills. And I think she's sitting comfortably at A. Now, Valkyrie. This is going to be a very skeptical thing, right? But for the longest time, she has been an S tier officer. Now, right now, she's slightly going to be starting to get dethroned. Now, do we still keep her at S tier? Or because she's being dethroned, does it mean we move her down to A tier? Because I feel like if we move her down to A tier, then we have to move others down to, like, B tier. So, like, you know, this would actually have to be how it is. If we move Valkyrie to A, these would have to go B. And I just feel wrong for putting them in B. They feel like they deserve more than B. So, like, does she stay A tier now? I feel like she can still be in S tier, but we'll come back to that. We'll move her up if we have to. The new tank officer, Madame Havoc, 100%, pretty much the best tank officer right now. She's just came out, extremely, extremely strong. And honestly, I think she will stay at S tier for a good year or two. By that time, new officers will come out. But how much stronger will they be? Time will only tell with that one. So yeah, her brand new skills, guys, absolutely phenomenal. She does a great amount of damage, especially with a damage coefficient of like 3,150 if you manage to get all stacks on. Top tier officer, and as I said, she's the one who's basically dethroning Valkyrie. Next up, we have got Lady Justice. Now, Lady Justice, for me, I think she's a pretty good officer, don't get me wrong. But, you know, her slowdown is definitely one of the biggest things for her. She has 1,500 skill coefficient. For me, I think I'm going to keep her here at the high-end A tier. I do think Valkyrie offers more and is better than Lady Justice. So this is why I feel weird putting Valkyrie in A tier. I feel like she should still be in S tier just because she is above these guys when it comes to just the skills she provides. With that being said, Lady Justice is definitely a very, very good officer. Very close to being S tier, but not quite hitting the mark because I know there's going to be loads of people that go on this S tier. So moving forward, Rapier. This is an easy S tier. He's absolutely phenomenal, especially on a light tank. The critical damage, the normal attack, just overall on a light tank. I mean, he works on helis, he works on MBs, don't get me wrong, but he specializes in a light tank, not just because he offers more if you're on a light tank, but in general, the main feature of a light tank is its main guns. He goes in, gets a couple of shots off, gets out. Now, with those couple of shots, Rapier manages to get a lot of crits, a lot of penetration, so with that being said, he's definitely S tier. Now, Law of Order, he has to be S tier. He has to be. You know, he is an exclusive lounge officer, as many of you guys know. Very, very good officer. And honestly, I think I don't have him, but from the footage I've seen of him, he was one that when you first looked at the skills, you thought, he could be good, he might not be good, but definitely better infield than he is on paper. He's one of those officers. So definite S tier. Should he be going above Rapier? Probably. Does he go above Madame Havoc? I don't think he goes above Madame Havoc, honestly. So Madame Havoc is the newest officer, as many of you may know. She's just came out, and honestly, I think she is better than exclusive lounge officers. So we'll move on here. I feel like we're going to have a lot of S tier officers because generally there is a lot of good ones. So with regards to Svalinn, if we are talking super heavy and super heavy only, he's S tier. But we're not. We're talking tanks in general. He's an A tier. He's pretty decently high A tier. He offers quite a lot of protection. If you are tanking a base, he is very good at it. But here's the thing, guys. When it comes to tanking bases, right, it means you are going to be probably having a high-level tank unit, okay? And with that being said, you're going to want someone like Thorn. Now, Thorn offers a good tanking ability, but she also offers a lot of protection on your base. So if you are someone who's going to be running Thorn, then you're going to want another tanking officer as well as base defense officer to go with Thorn. So I feel like Svalinn, as good as he is, he's only good for one thing, and that's tanking a base, right? You know, and technically he would be good in a field fight, I guess. But the thing is, no one uses super heavies for a field fight. No one really uses them. So, I mean, he could be a good idea if you're trying to get him to be used for field fighting. But I don't see him really being relevant when you have other officers that can provide more options, but still do almost just as good of a job at tanking a base, if that makes sense. So he's a good A tier, but he definitely is not an S tier. We've got Uncle, undoubtedly S tier officer. He is a tank officer, guys. But the thing is, most of his skills are versatile, really. You can put most of the skills on any unit, but there's just like one or two skills that are tank only. So with that being said, although he is a tank officer, he is one of the most versatile tank officers out there. He can be used on almost all units. So that's kind of crazy. He's very good. Obviously, he has amazing base defense, as well as obviously the shield. He offers some damage. Overall, when paired up with, for example, Madame Havoc, I actually think he goes above Lord of Order. I think this is the list so far. I think 100... You know what? I think we're going to have to put Valkyrie back down to A, because I know that there's more S tiers to come. So, with that being said, Professor Payne, he goes up here. Very similar situation here to Guardian of Truth. Professor Payne, when he first came out, was absolutely amazing. So strong. But now, I could already count multiple, normal officers I'd rather have other than Professor Payne. Yes, he has some good skills that I've definitely used for skill training. For example, the 30% skill damage. Very nice skill to take off of him. But overall, as a whole officer, he just isn't worth it anymore. He really just isn't worth it. I do feel sorry for anyone who is still working on him. Guys, if you are working on Professor Payne and you're over halfway, keep going. But if you've spent less than 180 statues on him, I would say switch to someone else. But again, go for one skill of his. You don't really want to be wasting awakening him at this point. Obviously, if you're brand new and you've already started working on him, you're over halfway, maybe continue going, because obviously there's always going to be better officers coming. So try and get at least one exclusive lounge officer. Okay, moving on. Thorn. She is an S tier, guys. I have to put her in S tier. She's more like a versatile officer than an actual tank officer. The only reason she's a tank officer is, again, one single skill of hers is set for tanks, and I believe that's an HP buff. So 40% HP buff is for tanks. Every other skill of hers can be used anywhere on any officer. So she's basically a versatile officer. She offers a really good shield to someone. She offers firepower to nearby allies. She offers base protection. She offers unit protection. And on top of that, guys, she will grab the shield of whoever her aide is when in a base, and she will give the base a double base shield. So with that being said, Thorn is very high S tier. She's absolutely amazing, but with that being said, she can be used on most units other than artillery, but for example, she'll be used on tanks and infantry. The next one we have here, by far, I don't know who we put at top. Do we put Madame Havoc or do we put Still? I think we have to put Still. She's still, I think, better. Even though Madame Havoc has higher damage coefficient, I think overall her skills are better. So the last one here we have is gonna be Still, and with Still, I think she goes in A. It's a hard one because when awoken, she offers 30% resilience to base. She is good. She does offer a decent base shield as well as, you know, a shield for the unit. But I feel like she's one of those units that was really good when she came out, but right now she's good to have if you don't have a spare officer. But basically, Uncle is an upgraded version of her, like a much upgraded version. So imagine having like 2 or 3 of hers. That's him. I feel like he's one of those, if you're brand new to the game, you wouldn't go for Still now. Like if you made an account right now, you wouldn't go and awaken Still, you'd go and awaken Uncle instead. So if you've had her from the start though, like from a couple of years ago, yes, she does okay for her job if you still have like some spare units. So with that being said, guys, this is kind of the end of the tier list, but I want to include, we could put her in D tier. At the start of the game, she's like B tier with Spanner at the beginning of the game, but now she's like D tier. This guy is a versatile officer. He's not technically a tank officer, but he's very good on a tank, extremely good on a tank and a helicopter. Again, kind of getting, you know, whizzled out now with all of these new officers that are much better, but he, for a very long time, was one of the best officers. And again, we're going to include this guy here because he was on the Conquest store. You can get him for basically free pretty quick. He offers slowdown. He's like a free version of Lady Justice, but just not as strong. So we're going to put him in the C tier and a D tier. And again, another versatile officer you could use on tanks. He'll do the job, but he's not someone you really want. So I feel like we managed to fill that D and C tier now. But overall, guys, the one thing about Warpath is you're probably sitting there thinking, Scopes, why have you got so many S and A tiers? Guys, honestly, every officer has their role, and most officers are decent at the job they need to provide. With that being said, though, some are better than others, hence why we do have some higher up in the S tier than others. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Please let me know down in the comments what tier list you'd like to see next. I feel like I'm going to get roasted by a few people in the comment section for this tier list in general, but it goes without saying, it is all opinionated. It's opinionated video. Let me know your opinions down below. Please feel free to let me know if you think I've messed up with any of these officers here. But as always, guys, I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you so much for all the love and support on this YouTube channel lately. You guys have been amazing. And hopefully, I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.